welcome to Guiding Light, where we help you follow the peace. I'm Jenna Carson,
I'm Sierra Larson.
and we are so excited to have a very special guest with us today, Dwain Schallenberger. Welcome, Dwain. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I'm honored.
We are honored. To tell you a little bit about Dwayne, I'd like you to know that first and foremost, he is a husband and father of four, three boys and a daughter. He has lived in St. George, Utah since 2006. He grew up in Montana and attended the University of Montana, where he played basketball and studied business. He is a massive Jesus fan and a massive Christian music fan. He goes to 10 Christian concerts per year, and he likes to send other people to Christian concerts as well. Professionally, he is a real estate land developer and investor. He owns a real estate land development brokerage and property management company as well. He founded Nets on Fire, a four-court basketball facility in St. George, and he's the owner of Shoot 360 in Las Vegas, a high-tech basketball training facility. He organized and coached Utah Select Basketball, an AAU program in St. George for 10 years. His family trains American Ninja Warrior, and his wife and he are big fans of the practice of yoga. He is a mentor at Utah Tech for the football team, and he's passionate about elevating women's voices, feeding those in need, adding value to others' lives, bringing people from all faiths together, bettering himself as a husband and father, and drinking about 400 smoothies per year. Dwayne, I am so inspired by you and want to dig into this idea that you have of elevating consciousness. So you're very self-aware and very interested in, as you mentioned, bettering yourself. So tell us a little bit more how that is a spiritual practice for you and how that helps you follow the peace in your life.
Great question. Wow, I'm so excited. Let's dive in. So, first of all, I grew up in Hamilton, Montana, kind of a small town. I grew up through this scope of growing up in a small community, in a rural community, and the course of my life, I've just continually learned like some things I was taught were true. I grew up in a religion, and some of the things I was taught there weren't necessarily exactly the way that I see them today. And so, like each level of knowledge that the Lord gives me, I realize that we all kind of have false beliefs or generational traits or things that we need to work through. And so I just have a passion for just truth and freedom. I guess at one point in my life, I was wondering why I cared about finances, which since I was a kid, I always wanted to like have money and kind of have freedom. And I realized I ended up praying about it. And the Spirit told me, you fought for freedom before this life. And so when I realized, like, okay, I'm fighting for freedom here in every area of my life. I don't want to be addicted to things that would limit me. I don't want to be extremely unhealthy where I can't be engaged with my kids or my family. So I've always had this quest of self-improvement and a desire to then share that knowledge and help others with truths that I learn.
Tell us more about what freedom looks like to you.
Okay. Well, like starting with that, like I cared about financial freedom. I had read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was literally like God was speaking to me at that time. I was working at Wells Fargo Financial making 40,000 a year, and I quit my job in 2 weeks after I read that and went and got my real estate license. My mom is a real estate broker and a very successful one, and I kind of learned from her. But taking that leap of faith, not only did I leave that job, I left that community and started in St. George with someone that I didn't know. And it was 6 months of zero income of this leap of faith. I finally had to borrow $5,000 from my mom just to like cover my rent, which was kind of embarrassing. And she was like, "It's okay. You've got what it takes. Just stay with it." But the next 6 months, I made 100 grand. And so that was kind of like the foundation of faith. So I'm like you, Jenna, in that when I see an idea and I feel like it's truth, I just jump all in and I'm all in. And so anyway, that's an example. Another example is like emotionally, that's an area I've really had to work on in my life. I think there was times when I would kind of have these ups and downs and be like super excited and then down. And actually, through goal setting and intention, one of the areas that I work on emotionally was yoga, the practice of yoga. And so I've learned that if I go to yoga twice a week, sometimes three times, that has created more stability emotionally for me, and that I'm a better father and a better husband, and I don't freak out. So I would just say every area of life, like we'll go through that in a little bit, but in each area, it's freedom in each one. And I think that when we're free of any addictions or anything that's holding us back, then at that point, God can allow us to be receptive to many promptings. Not that He doesn't help us throughout our whole life, regardless, but it allows me to help more people, I think.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I want to kind of go back a little bit and talk about Jen and I are both like really entrepreneurial. We're setting out in this podcast, we're starting retreats, we're doing all of these things. And then growing up in a Christian with a Christian background, I think sometimes there's um there can be some confusion about this pursuit for growth and entrepreneurship and kind of the money is the root of all evil and balancing that and then all of the spiritual I guess disciplines and characteristics that go into like entrepreneurship and empowerment and growth. Can you talk a little bit more about that and your journey as far as that
Wow.
goes?
You guys ask brilliant questions. So a lot of stuff packed into that question. So, okay, first off, the first thing that popped in my mind is I want to share this story. Um, so Robert Kiyosaki, he literally, like, for me, it was like the Bible for me, of how to have freedom earlier. Like there was this concept growing up that you would basically go to work for a company for 30 years, go to school, go to college, get a degree, work for a school for or work for a company for 30 years and then get a pension, right? Well, that kind of like was dead in like 1980. And they created, IRAs or 401ks, and everybody didn't know it, but this past generation that was counting on a pension now became investors. But they didn't really know that. They were used to being savers. So that all of a sudden the idea was like just accumulate all this money, save it up, and then at the end of your life, just deplete it, but make sure you don't deplete it fast enough that you can live till you die, right? And Kiyosaki opened my eyes to this idea of cash flow, which was build assets that produce cash flow, find enough cash flow that pays for your monthly expenses, and you're free already. You basically are retired. You don't have to go to a job. And today I don't have to go to a job if I don't want to, but I choose to because I enjoy it. But it became this like relentless pursuit for me of like, okay, I see a path and I'll apply it, right? Like I said, Jenna's amazing at taking action, and her and I share that characteristic. And so Justine, my wife, and I, we made this thing. I just said, hey, the Bible talks about 7 years of plenty, or 7 years of famine, 7 years of plenty, right? We know that story. And I was like, so we're going to treat our first 7 years of marriage like famine. We're not going to buy expensive cars. We're not going to buy an expensive house. We're going to live as little as we can. We literally went and rented a little home on the golf course for $900 a month. It was a little 3 bedroom. Found a great deal. But we started buying properties over the first 7 years, and we bought like 8 rental properties. While our friends were like buying houses, we just bought rental property after rental property. And today, to give you an idea, like just those properties alone produce like $10,000 a month in passive income, right? And they've obviously risen in value. So that's part of the story when I saw that with Kiyosaki, where I was like, okay, I can do this. I just need to accumulate assets, make sure that they're solid asset. The definition of an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. The definition of a liability is anything that takes money out of my pocket. And so you want assets to pay for liabilities. And so it just made sense. It clicked and I went for it. Um, and then second, you asked about another thing that I thought of, and that's each time Kiyosaki has this thing, employee, self-employed. It's called the cash flow quadrant: employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And I was an employee, which means that we're taxed the most and we make the least. And right now, 77% of our world is an employee. And it's good and you can be a great employee, but if you're an employee, it's important to be on the right side of the quadrant as well and to learn to invest. So you can be an employee that invests, an employee that has a side business. You can be self-employed and invest. But my point was I wanted to just keep growing. And so I went employee and then self-employed. And when I made the jump with my partners to do development, the first project, I had never even built a house. Okay. I couldn't read plans. I didn't have a clue. And the first project that we built was a 76 unit condo project called Estancia Resort. And we literally, like my partner, Dave Nazel, he's like, Dwayne, you know vacation rental as well as anyone. Let's go build it. And I was like, okay. And we put land under contract, we raised capital, and we built this project. But what people don't know is like it was Valentine's Day. Um, I was there. I think we hadn't had any sales. I was showing people like literally on scaffolding this concept, selling them this vision of this resort. And we sold like 9 rental units that day, like in concept, like pre-construction. But every morning, this is the important part. Every morning or every night, I would visualize and listen to music of seeing the end result at the very end. So I would picture the pool. I would picture the kids playing in the pool. I'd picture families coming and being united, having great experiences, going mountain biking, just having an amazing experience. Part of how we crafted the resort was that it would be 3 bedroom, 3 bath, or 4 bedroom, 4 bath, so that everybody had their own bathroom, that families could come. Anyway, but the visualization part of it, that creative spirit that I believe is in all of us. I mean, God is the creator of worlds without end. He created us, He created our spirits, our bodies. And I think within us is that desire to create. So,
Definitely.
Dwayne,
Oh, sorry.
go
Yeah.
ahead, Sierra.
I was going to say, definitely, I love that. And I definitely like how you put it in perspective because you did talk about the money, but really you talked about the the build and the creation and the realization of vision and all of these things that are very spiritual as far as visualizing and I think a lot of that visualization is inspired, like you're saying, is we have all of these gifts and talents, and then we have these desires that are in us and our innate um, desire to create and build and reflect the creator through us, through ourselves and what we have and glorify him in that way. And so I love how it's not just about money, 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 right? It's not just about that. It's bigger than that. It's about creating, it's about freedom, it's about valuing your time and giving that time to your family, giving it to causes and the money is just kind of a symptom of that, I guess. Like it comes with it, sure, but the joy is living in that purpose and I love that.
yeah, part of that driving force is I literally just never wanted to miss any of my kids' games. And when I was working at the bank that I was working at, I remember I had to ask permission to get work off. And it was like, I just, inside of me, I couldn't handle it. Like, I just wasn't wired that way. I was like, hey, I can come in early. I can stay late. I can, whatever. But just like, anyway, I always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit in me.
I have a hard question for both of you, and I do pray that we'll be guided as we talk about this. Just to be completely transparent, I have a lot of limited beliefs around money. I have grown up believing that money is the root of all evil or excess money. And I am deeply troubled. My spirit is deeply troubled often just by my situation in life where I feel like I have so much as a middle class woman living in the US compared to the majority of the world population. And I generally live sort of paycheck to paycheck. I don't have like accumulation of investments and wealth right now. As a chaplain, I've kind of really focused on the vocation rather than earning and investing. And now in my 30s, I'm like, okay, I need to start thinking more strategically. But even last night, I read an article about a young Palestinian man who burned to death after an attack in Gaza. And I was just so troubled because I was thinking about how his life has been just trying to survive. just trying to get food and water and have safety, and then he was killed. And I was so troubled last night thinking, how can I even ever be thinking about money when all my needs are already met? And so I'm just curious how both of you would respond to that because I'm still in this state of seeing capitalism as evil and just just thinking about the human need to survive in other parts of the world that are not living in abundance.
Sierra, do you want to address that first?
I would love to. I think for me, because I do feel like sometimes and probably recently, I got into this like state of complacency because I'm self-employed. I have the freedom that I need, and I'm doing good work. And but there was a desire for me to do more. And it wasn't until I actually made giving goals of who I wanted to serve. Like I don't need more money right now. Like not I'm comfortable, But what I do need is to be able to like so we both are Christian music fans. There's this radio station called Boost 95.5. I'm obsessed with it. It's Christian rap. I love Christian rap. And every
Forrest
year
Frank, Connor Price.
yes,
Okay.
Lecrae,
Yes.
NF, just hardcore
Yes.
Christian rap.
Yeah. Yeah. Love
And
enough. Yeah.
they are listener supported. Actually, so they're listener supported. I know there's the studio with The Chosen. We were kind of talking about that before. They were looking for investors for I think their David project. And I was like, I would love to be able to donate to that. And I wasn't in a place where I could do that at the time. But so there's so many things out there and causes out there and even people that I meet in my everyday life, like I have a friend, I did a mission trip in the Dominican Republic, and there's this family there that they're just like my family. And I recently visited him in Utah, and he's like an amazing chef. Like he's a chef. Right now he's working as a construction worker, but he is a chef. And I asked him, I'm like, would you like to have your own restaurant? And he said, "Yeah, that's my dream. I would love to have a food truck, a restaurant." And everything in me was like, I want to make that happen for him. I want to do that so that he is free to live his dream. I want to make people's dreams come true. I want to help people, build and support themselves. And like, it's so much bigger than me and my needs. And when I think of abundance and the ability to have abundance, it not only flow. I live in a very abundant life. Like it is flowing through me. And one day I just had this affirmation come upon me, and it was um, abundance flows through me and to everyone in my sphere of influence. And I just couldn't stop saying it. I was just like it was on like in my spirit, in my soul, abundance flows through me and affects everyone in my sphere of influence. And it just flowed like I could just feel this like glowing light flowing in me and then flowing out just and filling all of these cups around me. And I just saw light filling all of these cups and it was just going and going and going. And to me, that it was more than money. Money is a tool. It was opportunity. It was hope. It was light. It was just abundance that I could bring to other people. And so, but I can't do that if I don't continue to grow. I can't do that if I don't continue to seek out these resources to give to other people to make their dreams come true. I can't do that if I don't learn how to be successful and apply these principles in my life. I can't teach other people to do more than survive, to do more than what they're currently doing so they can live in their full purpose. So it's not even like yeah, I say that like money is a side effect, but what it is becoming the person that knows how to grow things. And through that, you could give money away. You can serve in so many ways in organizations and so many people doing so many like nonprofit things that I would love to be able to give to. But I think for me, what helped me get past that mental block was starting with giving goals and how much I wanted to be able to give to other people and writing those down and focusing on I have to make these goals because I have to give to those people.
It's beautiful. Jenna, do you want me to comment on that, or does that suffice?
Please,
Okay.
unless if you have something to share,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I would just say like um I know right now, if you had excess money, you're going to look to do good, right? Just like, so I would say money amplifies who you are. Like if you really make poor choices, it'll be reflected in, it'll just be accentuated, right? But if you have a desire to do good, like at some point, someone is taking the risk to build a business to provide jobs for families. Like I have two close friends that own businesses. They started from scratch at like age 22, and they now employ like between 300 and 500 people. And I find that charitable that they were willing to take the risk and think bigger and to be able to provide jobs for many families and to be accountable to those families. And then those families can better themselves as well. So back to your example today, like it hurts my heart. I feel for every person that doesn't have that. And so I can either try to multiply my talents and then give to try to help in some way, or I can just keep it under a bushel and not try to grow. And that just didn't feel right to me. To me, it was like, hey, this isn't about necessarily me accumulating all this stuff, but it is about freedom. And I actually write down, we'll go through some goal setting stuff today, but I have like 10 charities. One of mine is K-Love. So you have yours. I do donate to K-Love as well because I love Christian music. There's a local charity called The Bridge that a gentleman started. He was attending a faith and he kept hearing them talk about charity all the time, but he didn't see it in action. And so he actually left that faith and just started a charity. And it's every Wednesday and Sunday morning that he now has grown up where they feed 150 families here in St. George. So every community, I mean, our community has 1,000 homeless kids in St. George, Utah. Like you would never guess that, right? Like there's needs everywhere we go. Uh, I'm trying to think like World Vision. You guys have been to Christian concerts, World Vision or Compassion. You know, those are organizations that I support. I choose to try to go to the college and I speak to the college students, and I feel like Jesus throws me kids all the time after that I can help kind of mentor. And for me, I realize that Jesus wants me to minister to the one. And while my heart would say I want to help the whole earth, that's Jesus's job. And he can inspire me within my sphere of influence or within the people that I know to try to add value to their lives. So for me, um, I think we're saying the same thing, Sierra, that like I see that I don't see money as the root of all evil. I see I see it as just a tool, and we can either use it for good or bad. So
That's both of your thoughts are so helpful. Thank you so much. I will keep working on my mindset. And it's
we
true. I
need
mean,
car Jenna, sorry, we need you to run a charity, like legit. Like I'm saying, your heart leading out, and someone's got to fund that, you know? So we all play
thank
a different
you.
role.
Thank you. This is very, very helpful. I'm even thinking of an instance recently. Someone was in a just someone in my neighborhood. I could tell she was in a tough situation, and I was able to give her a little bit of money, like I gave her $50, but I was wishing that I had more to give her. And I think it really would have blessed her. And so this is helping me think, okay, yeah, it's not money that's the issue. It's where our heart is and how we use it. So thank you. And both of you are extremely generous, I know, because I know you, with giving money and time and your heart. So yeah. Well, let's Sierra, did you have any more questions on this topic before we dive into some intention and goal setting?
No, let's do it. I love those are
Let's
my
do
two
it.
favorite words. So let's do it.
And
Okay.
abundance, you said. That's
And
one.
abundance. I know.
Abundance.
It's just, oh, I have goosebumps. I'm so excited.
Dwayne has this amazing system of intention setting, having affirmations, which he uses this special system called lofty questions. and goal setting. So, Dwayne, you go ahead and start where you feel called to start.
Okay, so since I was a kid, I really loved goal setting and would always try to do the best that I could within goal setting. And I would try to learn from others. And anyway, it's evolved over time. And I actually hired a coach about 5 years ago. His name's Brent Wade Fader, Trusted Coaching. And he kind of helped with this system. And then we're also going to talk about lofty questions. And so um, let's start with the story of lofty questions. So I was at a basketball camp, actually at Nets on Fire, and my sons were attending this camp, and I met a guy named Mano Watsa, and Mano lives in Canada. He does 150 basketball camps per year. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And as we were talking on a Friday, and I keep a bucket list, trying to stay focused, but I keep a bucket list, and I'm talking to Mano, and his company is called PGC, Point Guard College. And I had attended 20 years ago or 25 years ago as a kid. And then my kids were attending. And Mono's now the owner of PGC. And I'm talking to him, and he tells me that Jamal Murray, who plays for the Denver Nuggets, was in his camp as a seventh grader and lived near him in Canada. And I looked at Mono. I met him that same moment, and I said, "Well, Mono, like you've got to go to the NBA Finals. It's this Sunday. Like you've got to go. Like that's one you got to do it." He's like, "Well, I don't have anybody to go with." And I said, "Well, let's go." So literally I said, "I'll buy your tickets and let's go Sunday." So I called my teammate who runs Shoot 360 for us in Las Vegas, David Bell, and I said, "I want to take you and Mono. You guys need to meet because David's like a master at meditation." I was like, "We need to go." So Mono's like, "Okay, I'll buy the flights, you buy the tickets." And we went. And I had literally met him that day. And I knew that, like inside, I knew I had a window of time that I was supposed to learn something from Mono. Like he lives in Canada, the chances of him coming back were really slim. So we flew out to Denver on a Sunday, and I got to go to my first NBA Finals, which was a bucket list item, right? And he knew Jamal and his dad and his mom. But while we were there, what God spoke through him was something that now I've shared with so many people. And so I thank Mono and I thank God for this, but he taught me something called lofty questions. So my whole life, I had heard about affirmations, and I knew that affirmations were good. And whether it was Tony Robbins or others, incantations or whatever, I would say these in my car. I would say affirmations. I would say my goals. And what Mono taught me is that oftentimes affirmations get caught in the conscious mind. That we're aware, our brain kind of rejects some of these affirmations at times because they just come to us. So he said, the way around that to get to the subconscious mind, which we know that like we have like the same like 55,000 thoughts per day or close to that. We kind of are creatures of habit, right? And the subconscious mind just kind of plays out every day this kind of similar pattern of beliefs. That's why it's important to remove false beliefs or things that we have running in there. Like we're talking about money blocks. If that's in there, it's just going to keep coming out. And so Mano said, instead of doing affirmations, I pose it in the form of a question. So it's a lofty question. So I wanted to give a couple examples of this. I think we have the screen pulled up. So this is what Fader has taught me in the format. We take 8 areas of life: social, financial, relationships, business, physical, spiritual, sexual, and emotional. We take all 8 areas of life, and and then we set like goals for 90 days. This is kind of a 90-day chart. So we start with the vision, which is like 90 days out. Then we put together a plan. It's a 4-step process. We find actions that are consistent with that plan. And then the measurement is important to know whether or not did our vision match the measurement. Like if someone set out to be the NBA MVP, how do we know if they had pure intention? The measurement is, did they achieve the goal? Right? Did we accomplish the goal we set? And so if I were to form a lofty question for spiritual, highlighted in pink, I would say, instead of "I am always divinely guided," I would say, "How is it that I am always divinely guided? Constantly, always, no matter what." And I would always form this question as if it's completed. And then, and I always want to say like always, no matter what, like absolutely, because then the subconscious mind really doesn't know the difference and goes to work to solve that. Like, how is it that I'm always divinely guided, and we're just kind of like rewiring our brain in an intentional way aligned with goodness, right? So I would say, how is it that I'm always divinely guided? And why is it that my plan to counsel with Jesus was so effective in everything that I did? And how is it that those daily intentional questions brought me so much joy always and helped me have clarity? And the measure of that, why is it that I was able to hear him so well that my body was and spirit were attuned to be able to hear those promptings that were come to me? I'm so grateful. So that would be an example of a lofty question.
Dwayne, when you told me this concept of lofty questions, I was immediately drawn because I've tried with affirmations. I use them in my work with clients in yoga therapy. They can be extremely helpful. Lofty questions felt like a step above, and you encouraged me to come up with my own lofty questions. And I didn't even use this goal setting metric. I was just having this download of ideas for lefty questions. So I was just writing them out. And you said, voice record yourself saying those lofty questions and play music in the background. And so I played this beautiful, calming meditation music, and I read my lofty questions, and now I listen to them often. And you said that you listen to them morning and night. So tell us why it's good to be listening to those in the morning and at night.
Okay, great question. So at night, it's the last thing that you hear, right? And so the last thing that you're putting into your mind is important. Like, I'm not trying to go dark, but I had a cousin that used to listen to like Metallica before he went to bed. And I was like, it's probably maybe not the time to like put that in your head, right? Maybe before a workout. But a lofty question and everything we want to be placing in our head last thing before we go to sleep, then the subconscious mind is going to work on that throughout the night while we sleep. And then often for me, I don't know about you guys, often I wake up with inspiration in the morning. I'll wake up with clarity of mind or clarity of thought. And so that's kind of the idea. And then the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up, typically Justine and I get up around 4:45 or 5 a.m. each morning. And 3 days a week we do Ninja Warrior training. There's about a 15-minute period that when I wake up, I just immediately push my audios, put in my AirPods, and I listen to these lofty questions, and then we go work out. And then usually I come back and review this goal setting. I've got many more layers to this, but this 90 day, I review that daily. So I hope that makes sense. And one thing that Jenna and I were laughing about is I sent her one of my lofty questions, and it was Forrest Frank's "Up" song in the background, and it was really like upbeat, and it was like energetic. And she's like, "I did more like meditative and whatever." And I'm saying, whatever your jam is, whatever like gets you excited and or calms you, like whatever your thing is, like just create.
Love it. And a few other examples of lofty questions are questions like, how is it that I have all the time that I need today to do exactly what I'm called to do? How is it that it's so natural for me to share my abundance with others? How is it that I feel more and more energized each and every day? So anything and everything can be a lofty question.
Yeah.
Jenna, can I share three of mine with you?
Please.
Okay, so in my social one of the things that Jesus has told me to do is to have music nights in my home. And when I heard him
Ooh.
tell me that, it just set off like the most beautiful thing. I started inviting friends over to have music nights. One thing that I didn't know is I had Lincoln, my 7-year-old, was probably only 3 or 4 at that time. He has a great love for music, and I believe that God knew that. And so that's been like a cool effect. In fact, once we started having music nights in our home, then I started giving them Christian music, these artists that were like my favorite Christian songs. And pretty soon I was like, we need to have a concert. And we had a concert in our backyard. It's called a backyard concert. And like 300 people showed up. And tomorrow, I'm so excited. Tomorrow, we're having our second one in our backyard. I think it's going to be bigger than ever. But one of them that I write in my social category is, how is it that I have music nights in our home? It warms our hearts always. In the spiritual category, this is one of the gifts. This is one of the things I'm really passionate about, is that we all need to discover our gifts, because that's how God can work through us. I believe that our gifts are eternal, that we work for them before this life, that we'll work on them forever, that they're really, really important. And if you ever need to know what your gifts are, just ask others. They will tell you. But one of my gifts is to have healing conversations with people. And so I say, how is it that I always have healing conversations constantly? It's one of my gifts. And that kind of helps remind me of that. How is it? This is emotional. How is it that I am a master at meditating and listening to uplifting music so constantly each day, no matter what? And that is something that I put in practice every single day. So that's three examples.
Dwayne,
Yes.
thank you so much. Oh, Sierra, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I absolutely love that. And as, therapist, I'm all about, why is this working in the brain? But as soon as you say, like, I just had a thought like, oh, how is it, that we're able to have such an amazing podcast that everyone listens to and subscribes and comments on. But instantly my brain goes, well, because you asked them to, and you remember to say that throughout the podcast, and instantly it starts answering that question, and then it just tells me how to do it, right? Like, so for me, I'm like, I don't know if it takes some of the like, I don't know, my logic brain is like, why is this working? And it's because I have to answer the question. And when I answer the question, it gives me this like blueprint. It gives me the plan, of, well, you're because you do this and because you do that and because you do this and that. And then I just go do it and then it happens. I'm like, my mind is blown right now. This is amazing. I'm so excited. Thank you.
It's truly life-changing. It really is. We are out of time for this part of the episode, but we are going to have Dwayne back for two parts. So we are going to, in the next episode, dive more into a four-part plan for goal setting. And then in the next part, we'll be talking about sex as spiritual practice and as part of holistic well-being. So we'll end here for today and hope that you join us for the next part featuring Dwayne. Dwayne, thank you so much for being here. We are grateful also to all of you listeners, and we do invite you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with all your friends. I'm Jenna Carson.
I'm Sierra Larson. We hope you follow the peace.